Members of the board, do you have any questions at this time? I have one. It was really a follow-up to Trustee Otto when they started to ask about with the advisory committees. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because we had, during the discontinuance process, we had members of the college who were acting as if those didn't exist, didn't know who was talking to who. So let me make it very clear again. That's the responsibility of the faculty member to address that issue, put the committee together, be the chair of that committee, get the input from the local businesses that are directly involved in that individual's area. That's what's still supposed to take place today, correct?
Absolutely, and the faculty are enjoying the process, and they have found that the advisory committees that have already taken place have contributed significantly to the information about the programs and how they wish to move forward. And all the program plans for the CTE programs are now in, and they indicate where they are with the advisory committees. The slides that were up earlier indicate the ones that have been completed, and we have a couple more to do this fall semester, and then we'll pick up a few more in the spring, and that should pretty much complete it for this year's cycle.
And this was something I did ask about. Is this the process we're going to use to, at least we as a board, have something, whether it be on our consent calendar, that we know that these activities have taken place, that we're not caught like we were that last time where, and this was, I want to say, with aircraft, where they were saying, we have no idea who was doing this, and essentially the burden went on to us as a board as if we were supposed to be doing it. And we have headlines, so I'm not to be overly sensitive to it, but yeah, that did bother me. That we ended up taking the political hit for something that we have no responsibility for. So that's why I asked, at least something come before us so we can check that box and know that everyone's doing what they are supposed to be doing. And
they're getting really good administrative oversight from my office, and I will make sure that it happens.
And the question only because we don't do vocational anymore. That's what I have been told by members of the community after we did the discontinue. So you're telling me that we have a very robust vocational career currently at Long Beach City College?
I think we have many good programs that are still in the CTE, and I think we will continue to expand that program base throughout the next several years.
So my information is still correct when I tell people that even after all the discontinuance, that amounted to 12 or 13% of our overall curriculum, so we still offer 87%, of my math is still good, of what was a very large offering anyway.
Yes, that's correct.
So Long Beach City College still is one of the finest, and those programs that you mentioned were, and acknowledged, by the way, as being outstanding, not only in the state of California, but throughout the nation. That was a softball question, by the way. Other questions?
Yeah,
Trustee Otto?
Just to make sure I understand where we are on these advisory committees. You say that in the spring of 2013 we completed 3, that in the fall of in the fall of 2013, under the title meetings completed and or scheduled, there are 6, so that would be 9, and we have 38 programs. Is that right? So we have 38 programs and 9 have advisory committees? Or scheduled?
Trustee Otto, the Trades and Industry Technology one that is scheduled for November will have 10 programs. Mm-hmm. And then the Child Development one there are 2 advisory committees in the Child Development, Family and Consumer Studies, Dietetics program. Those have been held as 2 separate programs. Culinary Arts was 1, Radio and Television was 1, the Computer and Office Studies was 1. So we have an additional 10 more that are going to group together in November. And then you have the other 3 that were done in the spring. Legally, we have to do this once a year. So we will have another cycle of some of the others that will occur this coming spring. And by the time spring has ended in June, we will have completed all the advisories that are needed to be had for all the programs.
And is it once every 3 years, once every 2 years, once every?
Once every year.
Okay, so all programs must be
Have
evaluated.
an advisory, a business advisory, community advisory committee once a year.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time? Yes.
Yes, I have a question also on the advisory committees. Are the students being invited to these committees?
Yes, they are, and we're delighted when students can come. I was at the Child Development Advisory Committee the other day, and we actually had 2 students in attendance at that one. So faculty are always encouraged to find students who would like to come and to invite them, yes.
Thank you. No other questions at this time. Thank you very much for the report on our CTE program. Very good. Next item is the accreditation update. President
Yes,
Oakley?
thank you, Board President Kellogg. It's interesting that we have held this item for near the end when it's probably the most important item. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things, but there is one issue that is the most critical for this college, and it's accreditation. And it requires an extensive process throughout the college that is being led by our 2 co-chairs, Dr. Wheeler and Dr. Bagg, and they are here today to give us an update on where we're at. So last but certainly not least, and most importantly, Dr. Bagg and Dr. Wheeler.
Good evening.
Thank you. I first want to just express my appreciation to Professor Wheeler. We've been working together since last spring in launching this process, and tonight we're grateful for the opportunity to give you an update on progress so far. So tonight we're going to just remind everybody again of the timeline, so people keep that in mind with our end goal of our visit next fall, about a year from now. We want to share with you progress with the participation in this process of institutional self-evaluation, and then finally really highlight the work that we're doing this year that is part of a response to the recommendations from the 2008 visiting team, and really just the work of the college engaged in its ongoing process of improvement. So you're just really getting a highlight of things. So again, a reminder of the timeline. We are working with our standard teams, and there are 9 of them, working to develop initial drafts that we're asking to have those completed by the end of the fall term. Those drafts will be collected by Dr. Wheeler and myself, and we're going to combine all of those into a unified voice and present to the college community a first comprehensive draft. We'll have forums at LAC and PCC campus, and we'll be presenting certainly to the academic senate, the executive committee, and the students as well to get feedback. We've done this in the past, and this is an important process for people to see early drafts. We intend to get that first draft out in February, allowing additional opportunity for people to look at that and provide revisions. We're targeting late April drafts to go out again to the college community. So we're building in chances for people to see what's drafted to ensure that you know, the tone, the perspective, the characterization of our work is accurate. So the final revisions and compilation of evidence, we need to have that completed by May, the end of the semester, and we're looking to June to bring the final draft to the board for approval. And then we have last-minute formatting to complete. And our report must go to ACCA in August, and then our visit is in October. We don't have the exact date yet. So about the participation that's happening so far, you may recall that we had steering committee meetings last year. The standard group started their work. We resumed that steering committee, I think it was September 20th, I think it was, kind of making sure that people were clear on what they were doing and just advancing the work forward. So those teams continue to meet, and Jeff and I, we have been meeting with the teams individually to support their work and provide whatever guidance and assistance that we can to keep the clarity on the end goals and the purpose of this is clear.
Yeah, just quickly, we at this point the teams are largely gathering evidence to support answers that they're giving for each of their standards. And so what we have been doing is collecting, well, you see on the timeline that first drafts are going to go out to the college community during the spring. We're looking at the pre-drafts of these documents, and there already are substantial pre-drafts that we have been looking at. And one of the things that we emphasize is that we're trying to think about each of these, the audience for each of these drafts, really what an outside member or an outside team member is going to be thinking about when they're at the college to really ask questions about it. And so we're having the opportunity to do that with each of the teams right now. Those are ongoing every week.
So that work is happening, and also really want to highlight that for this accreditation cycle, we've been working very hard to have broad participation. In particular, and in response to another recommendation that we got from the 2008 visiting team, was to provide more opportunity and to see more participation from classified staff and students. So we're really would like to acknowledge the effort of, I don't think he's here any longer, but the AFP president, Thomas Hamilton, and also our classified co-chair, Sharon Milk. So we've really gotten a lot of members on the team, and their voice and their assistance that they've been providing to Jeff and myself to make sure that the classified do the opportunity for good participation. That's been a big.
How are we doing on students?
Well, we have a slide here, and this is an important subject that we really want to talk about tonight. So currently.
I'll be quiet.
No, it's a good question. Currently, this is the membership for the 9 different standard teams. So we've got it broken out. You can see by faculty, classified, staff, confidential, administrators, managers, and students. So clearly, we see opportunities for bringing students in here. Very important, and actually in recognizing the need to bring more students in, actually we're quite grateful to the ASB for recently appointing a student co-chair, and actually Jeff and I met with her today. Very impressed. Then Ferrucci, very bright, very motivated, so we're quite confident to be able to get more students onto these teams, but also have a direct student liaison to help us to bring the draft to students in a meaningful, efficient way. And also, basically, this is really having the student as one of our 4 co-chairs will address the issue and help us to increase student. So other things that we are working on that are quite significant with regard to the self-evaluation process. There was a survey that was launched last week. It'll close at the end of this week, sent out to all faculty and staff, and it essentially has to do with soliciting people's input with regard to the college's governance process in particular, but also it covers many of the issues that are addressed in each of the standards. So this employee survey essentially is something that many colleges do as a way to provide the self-evaluation process with input that's broad from the college with regard to perceptions and experience with how we're meeting the standards. So we're looking forward to collecting those results soon, sharing them with the teams. They can utilize that data for their reports, but I would say most importantly that we use that input to work on improvements in a variety of ways, but in particular, I think with our governance process. Let's see, what else? Another significant thing that has happened, and I want to thank the leadership of the Academic Senate in carefully considering the administration of a student survey. So recently the Senate approved for spring of 2014 that we administer the community college survey of student engagement. So this will be another nice opportunity for us to get broad-based input from students using a nationally known, widely used, validated survey to collect important information that's a reflection of their engagement in a variety of programs and aspects of their experience. Student Learning Outcomes Assessment, this is an ongoing effort, and I assure you, being part of the ASLO subcommittee, our SLO coordinator, Lark Zunick, continues to work very hard in trying to support faculty in all departments, course program SLOs. She continues to work and try to find efficient and effective ways to assess also at the general education level. Another thing that we're doing is very soon we will be hiring a dedicated classified research analyst to support SLO assessment. So that's another way to continue to move forward and advance our collection analysis of assessment. We've been working at the college through our college planning committee and our academic council to continually evaluate and make improvements to our planning and review process, and to continually refine how that's integrated with resource allocation at the college and at all levels. And an important activity that we've been engaged in actually for over a year, but again, this is in response to a recommendation that we got from the 2008 visiting team, which was to conduct a comprehensive evaluation of our leadership and governance processes and structures at the college. So Jeff and I have been conducting focus groups, and we started last spring, and we, as of July, we completed 8 focus groups with all of the constituent groups of the campus, full-time faculty, part-time faculty, classified staff, administrators, individuals who were directly involved recently with our planning processes, and individuals who were not recently involved at those committees, to get input on how we're doing with governance and the whole process of decision making. Jeff conducted a pilot focus group with students in one of his classes. So we've taken the information we got from the focus group, we've shared it all with the academic people at the retreat over, and we're beginning defining from the focus group activity. We'll be distributing the results more widely soon. Actually, one of the things before we talk more about some of the focus group findings, one of the things that I wanted to share with you based on our conversation with our new student co-chair is that she is going to be helping us to go beyond the pilot that Jeff did with the class. So we're going to be holding 2 special student focus groups at the LAC, and we're looking at November, so those are coming up pretty soon. So we'll be folding that information, the overall study of our government. So here we really, there's a lot that was very valuable. We got very good input, all of the constituent groups, but we wanted to provide select findings of most.
So we collected, we had about 40 pages of notes from the focus groups. We narrowed that down to an 8-page summary, which took us over an hour to present to the academic council. So we've narrowed it down to 3 that we thought might be of interest to the board. And actually, we made this slide up before tonight's meeting and before we even knew what was going to go on at tonight's meeting. But it actually it speaks to a number of the issues that actually came up at the meeting. If we're looking at this, I'm sitting in the audience knowing what's on the slide, and I'm thinking of I'm I'm analyzing the comments that people are making based on some of the comments that people are making in focus groups. A real need to develop institutional processes to encourage innovation. There was concern from administrators, faculty, basically from all groups, that on campus there's a real interest in innovation, but it's unclear exactly where innovation fits within our processes. And I think a number of the comments that we heard tonight were actually expressing some of that same frustration that we heard in the focus group. Like, how exactly is innovation supposed to be presented to the various constituent groups on campus in order to move forward in a timely manner? The next point is there were real requests to figure out how contingency needs fit within a planning process. There was largely a satisfaction with the planning process that has been developed over the last few years, but a frustration with that process is that it's really good at long-term stuff, but any of the short-term issues and problems that come up are difficult to accommodate within the planning process. And finally, the challenges of communication is something that came up in every group that we talked to. And this actually was the only point that I could pick out where actually someone commented on the board and talked about the board. One of the students had been to the meetings on program discontinuance, and actually a few of the students, and were sort of frustrated with the kind of dialogue that happens in a formal setting like this, and feeling like it was a difficult place to really exchange ideas. And that particular sort of student frustration actually mirrored a larger frustration that, again, we saw in every single group, that there are these formal groups, these formal settings where decisions are made, where meetings are set up, but that often they're not really the greatest places to engage in real discussion and real conversation about the issues that the people are concerned about. This had to do with, so administrators were concerned that they didn't get enough chance to meet a wide variety of faculty. Faculty were concerned that they didn't see as much of administrators as they used to see before administrators moved to this building. There were classified who were concerned that they were unable to sort of share ideas with faculty leaders, with managers. Anyway, a lot of concerns with how can we make our communication systems better, and to take advantage of some of the things that we do really well informally when we get so caught up in sort of the formal processes that govern the college. So that's an overview of some.
Can I ask a question about that? Have you, in your work, seen models of ways that it's done in other places that seems to be more successful? Is that part of what you consider? I know in the accreditation process, this is the institutional self-study, but I'm just curious as to whether there are best practices with regard to communication in other places.
A quick answer. I mean, I'm not sure that we necessarily came up with that in these focus groups, although there were moments, not necessarily with communication, but like, for instance, with the contingents. Actually, there really were some good, now I'm thinking about this, there really were some suggestions about, one about contingency planning, but actually about communication. Just for a sense of how the focus groups work, there was, in each group there were certain frustrations that people were talking about, but one of the things that was really nice for us in conducting the group was how helpful every group was, and how sincere each group was about trying to solve the problems that we're talking about. In communication, the one I'm thinking of immediately is it was actually a classified recommendation about how better to communicate with especially faculty leaders in order to share issues that might smooth out processes that affected both groups. So it's really general terms, but it was actually really.
And I would just just add that, I think that Jeff and I, we have really made an effort to be in a listening mode and to just open up that dialogue. I think the step that we're at now in sharing with academic council and other groups is trying to, devise steps into making improvements. But I think, generally, I think that what we were able to kind of distill from the focus groups were really just differing points of view that stem from the different perspectives and the different types of work that people have. And I think that it really struck us that it's just having the opportunity to really explain more the differences in points of view. And I think one of the things that was clear to Jeff and to me was the level of dedication and focus on student success throughout all of the groups. But we get hung up on, depending on what it is that we're looking at, we each have different roles to play. And I think that one of the things we're doing with academic council to start is to try and, sometimes informally just break down those barriers, have more time to talk about those differences, and, sort of reestablish increased trust so that we can have those conversations and kind of educate one another about what each of us is trying to do and see the commonalities. So I think it will be really more to come, and what we would like to do is make as much progress as we can during this year that we can fold into what we include in our self-evaluation report. But surely this is the kind of work that will be really all we had to present, unless there's any other questions.
Other questions on the board? Seeing none? All right, thank you very much. Best comment is accreditation is not something you do every 6 years. Accreditation is what you do incorporated all the time in your planning.
Jeff,
I'm sorry, Trustee Otto?
I was going to save this for trustee comments toward the end, but it's relevant here, I think, and that is that 2 weeks ago I participated in a panel in San Diego at San Diego City College on different perspectives on shared governance, and there was a classified Senate president, the president of the state academic senate was there, everybody. My job was to do the trustee perspective on these things and brought up examples, and there were interesting examples of how different people looked at the processes differently, and I realize we're doing an institutional self-study right now and not tackling the problems, but I'd love to talk to you about it at some point.
Thank you, Jeff. Please ask forgiveness from Laura and the kids for keeping you so long.
Thank you. All right, we're now moving into our communications, unless President Oakley, do you have any other items?
I do not have any items.
Thank you. Student trustee, do you have a report?
Yes. Thanks. First, I would like to thank Board Member Dagoto for meeting with me. I really appreciate you taking your time to discuss about the board. As this is a learning experience for me, I would like to have the same opportunity with other board members, if possible. Also, I would like to thank President Oakley. And we had recently a discussion, and after our meeting, I thought a lot about a recommendation made by the President Oakley regarding some legal actions that the past ASB members and the former student trustee are taking and against the college. I would like to clarify that I am not part of any legal action against this board, not against Long Beach City College District. I haven't participated in any meeting that talks about it here in Long Beach City College District, so I don't have facts. So I will not take any stand in favor or against. Although I believe legal actions I believe that legal actions to reinforce the law is a right of every American. I will be neutral on any issue I don't fully know about. Also, I would like to announce that I have been elected by the California Community College Association of Student Trustees as the chair of the External Affairs Committee. With this position, I will do my best to represent the best interests of the student trustees in the state and the millions of students that we represent as well. On ASB, I have introduced a proposal to the ASB cabinet and to the PCC council to lower the cost of the textbooks through encouraging professors to start using online textbooks. By using this alternative as an online textbook, I believe we will be helping the student success since the books will be a lot cheaper. I believe that by lowering the cost of the education of our students, we will be increasing the student success. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations on your election to the state board. Members of the board, trustees, do you have any comments at this time? President Oakley, did you acknowledge in today's paper there was some comments about not only wherever that trophy or that went, it went that way and it never came back, so Luann has it. Keep an eye on her. That thing got me in trouble going through security, trust me, coming back from Sacramento. But we also had people acknowledged as well today, paper, for outstanding work. It was in multiple different areas of the college, but they were also in.
Yes, and I apologize for rushing through my comments and not commenting on that. Our Associate Vice President of Human Resources, Dr. Cindy Viscachil, was honored by KPEDS, and forgive me if I forget what KPED stands for. Maybe Rose, do you recall? The California Association of, it represents disabled students. And she was honored by them as an outstanding administrator in support of disabled students. Also, our public relations and marketing department, and forgive me, Mark, I can never remember the latest name for that department, and I don't want to use the acronym either.
His name is Mark Taylor.
Yes, Mark Taylor. But his team was honored by a national organization for public relations and marketing for outstanding work that they've done in many of the publications that you've seen and many of the campaigns that you've seen, the marketing campaigns, advertising campaigns, and the outstanding work that his team does to market the college throughout the region, the state, and the country. So congratulations to all of them.
And by the way, KPED stands for the California Association for Post-Secondary Education and Disability.
That's what it was. Anyway, congratulations to everyone. It's sometimes we don't stop to realize how many good things take place at this college, and there are a lot of things, and that's not typical of community colleges, not just in California, but throughout the nation. So, job well done. If there's no other comments by the members of the board, there's no other reports. I also have no one to speak on the non-agenda items, so without objection, this meeting of the Board of Trustees will be adjourned to November 12th at the LAC campus. Thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned. Good night. Oh.